Welcome to Vocab Unit 3. Your first root is un, which means not. We use this root a lot if you think about something being unjust or unedited or untrained. Your first word is unqualified, which means absolute or complete. Your synonyms are thorough and total, and your antonym is partial. Your helpful hint, you want to remember this, says, yes, of course, this word can also mean not qualified or not able. But in this case, remember that to qualify a statement means to make an excuse about it or to weaken it. So if you think about that definition for qualify, to make an excuse or to weaken it, you might qualify your statement by saying, well, yes, I believe this, but not all the time. And it'd be qualifying a statement. All right. So then the opposite of that, if something is unqualified, means that you are not qualifying that statement ever. So your picture here is showing unqualified support for the United States, right? Very proud, waving a flag, fireworks, 4th of July, unqualified patriotism. They're not saying, well, I support the United States, but. Your sample sentence says, the operation was an unqualified success with the patient feeling no adverse side effects. So we often hear that phrase, unqualified success. You might also hear unqualified failure. You might also hear unqualified support for something. And so again, that means complete failure or complete support. Your next word is unyielding. So if you see that word yield, to yield means to stop and wait and let someone else go first. And if you're unyielding, you are not giving in. So your definition is not giving way under pressure, inflexible, firm. Your synonyms are determined or relentless, and your antonyms are flexible or yielding. So this is a donkey over here, because donkeys are known for being stubborn or being unyielding. So stubborn is a really good synonym also for unyielding, right? You don't give way. So like you try to put a leash on a donkey and lead it somewhere, and it would be unyielding. It would say, no, I am not going. I'm going to stay here and be firm. Your sample sentence is, the kids were unyielding on Halloween, continuing to go to the old man's house even though his lights were off and he had put up a sign that read, no candy. So they were not going to give way to that sign. They were going to insist on getting candy from that house. Your next root is ambi, which means both. You might know the word ambidextrous, which means being able to write with both hands. And you'll see that the two words that we have this week both fit really clearly into that idea of ambi being both. Your first word is ambiguous, and that means open to having several different meanings or interpretations, or lacking clearness or definitiveness, indistinct, vague. So if I made an ambiguous statement, then you would probably be confused about what to do. So you might complain if I gave you ambiguous directions for a writing assignment, and you would say, well, it could be asking me to do this, or it could be asking me to do this, and I have no idea, and no one knows what to do. So hence this person's confusion over here. She's maybe been given some ambiguous directions about something, and isn't sure what she's supposed to do because what she was asked to do was so ambiguous or unclear. Your synonyms are unclear or obscure, and your antonyms are clear or unequivocal. Your sample sentence reads, when I asked for feedback, my cousin's response was ambiguous, and I couldn't tell whether or not she liked my performance. So if someone says, well, yeah, I liked it, that might be kind of an ambiguous response because they're saying that they like it, but it doesn't really sound like they do. Your second word is ambivalent. It's an adjective. It means having mixed feelings about someone or something, being able to choose between two courses of action. Your synonyms are contradictory, doubtful, or hesitant, and your antonyms are certain or definite. So this person looks like they're ambivalent because they have all these different options for which way they could walk, and they're trying to make a decision. Your sample sentence says, when given the option of traveling to San Diego or Seattle, Mary was pretty ambivalent as she really wanted to visit both places equally. So I think it's important to look at the difference between these two words. Ambiguous refers to something that someone said or something that someone wrote or something that you're looking at and saying, whoa, those directions or that response is confusing, is ambiguous. All right, so you're looking at something that's ambiguous. whereas ambivalent refers to a person. All right, so this person is ambivalent because they're trying to make a decision. You could also say that this woman up here is ambivalent because the directions she's trying to follow were ambiguous, if that makes sense, right? So the person is ambivalent about what they should do, possibly because their instructions were ambiguous or unclear. So there's just my two notes for you, right? Ambiguous describes directions, a statement. Ambivalent describes a person. Your next root is auto, which means self. If you think of the word automobile, it's called that because it can drive by itself in contrast to a horse-drawn carriage, which could not drive by itself. The word automate is a verb, which means to make a process mechanical or mindless. And your helpful hint is that self-operating machines, such as an ATM, an automated teller machine, enable one to perform bank transactions without the need for a bank teller. So your sample sentence is also about paying, and it says some grocery stores have automated the payment process, allowing customers to insert bills and coins into a machine instead of handing it to a cashier. So this phrase here is a good one, automated the something process. So you'll often hear about a process becoming automated and being able to happen by itself, or a lot of processes in manufacturing or in factories have been automated, meaning that they need less people to make the processes run. Your second word is autonomy. It is a noun. It means independence or freedom in one's actions. It can also mean self-government or political independence. Your synonyms are self-rule and your antonyms are dependence. So in thinking about the second definition over here, which is self-government or political independence, I think this is a reenactment of the Revolutionary War, where the colonies were fighting for their autonomy or their independence. So when you think about it in a political sense, if a group of people wants autonomy, they want independence. Your sample sentence goes along with the first definition about independence in your individual actions. So it says, the college freshman was overwhelmed by his new autonomy, and he secretly wished he still had to live under his parents' rules. So if you as an individual have autonomy, that means that you get to make your own decisions. So you currently in high school don't have a lot of autonomy. You'll have much more autonomy when you are living by yourself in college. You'll have even more autonomy when you have a job and you have income and you can decide where you want to go on vacation and how to spend your money and where to live. And those are all decisions that you make if you have autonomy. You can also, as an adjective, use the word autonomous. So autonomous. Hopefully you can read that. So thinking about if you have autonomy as an adult, you are an autonomous adult. So you can refer to yourself as an autonomous person, or you could refer to a country as an autonomous country if you have freedom to make your own decisions. Your next root is contra or counter, which means against. So you see this root counter a lot in things like counter-argument or counter-attack, which would be an argument or an attack back against someone. Your first word is contradict, which means to assert the opposite of or to deny. Your second definition is to speak contrary to the assertions of another or of oneself. So you might contradict an argument in that first definition, or you might contradict another person in the second definition. You might also contradict yourself. So that's something that when people are in an argument, they might say, you just contradicted yourself. First you said this, and then you said that. So it's to say like the exact opposite of what you or someone else or a statement has already said. So this guy over here who looks kind of angry might be contradicting something that someone else said. Your synonyms are dispute or differ, and your antonyms are accept or agree. Your sample sentence says, one of Emma's more annoying characteristics is her tendency to contradict whatever I say, no matter what the topic of discussion is. So if someone contradicts everything that you say, then they're always telling you that you're wrong, regardless of what the statement is. Your second word is counterfeit as an adjective, which means fake or made to fraudulently resemble something valuable. So here the fit kind of means true, and so counterfeit would be going against what's true or what's real. Your synonyms are false, phony, or forged, and your antonyms are genuine and authentic. Your sample sentence says, Bert was disappointed to discover that the prized Renoir painting that he had inherited from his mother was in fact a counterfeit and entirely worthless. So art is something that is often counterfeit when someone will claim that a work of art is worth a lot of money because it was made by a certain artist and then it was not in fact made by that artist. And then money is probably the most common thing that we talk about counterfeiting. If you make counterfeit money, it's not real money. Your next root is T or itty, which means quality of being. And your first root is hilarity. It's a noun, and it means great humorousness, cheerfulness, or merriment. In terms of the root, hilarity is the quality of being hilarious. So the quality of being hilarious, and also another synonym there is hilariousness, which is kind of a sillier version of that noun. But if you're trying to figure out whether hilarity works in a sentence, it can be helpful to think, could you replace hilariousness? So we laughed at the hilarity of the situation, or we laughed at the hilariousness of the situation. We laughed at the hilarity of those clowns' feet, because they look like faces. Your synonyms for hilarity are amusement and mirth, and your antonyms are sadness, depression, and gloom. Your helpful hint says hilarious entertainment, such as comedians or funny TV shows, make us laugh. So it is the hilarity of these TV shows that make us laugh. Your sample sentence says, the commercials for the movie made it look like 2 hours of non-stop hilarity, but in reality it was pretty lame. So it was supposed to be 2 hours of this amusement and mirth and funniness and hilariousness, but it was not, actually. Your next word is tenacity, which means firmness of purpose or persistence. Again, thinking about that root, we can think of tenacity as the quality of being tenacious, if you know that word, as an adjective. If you are tenacious, then you don't give up and you're persistent. This person on the rope right there is being tenacious because she's working really hard to climb the rope. Or you could say that you were impressed with her tenacity as she climbed the rope because she didn't give up. Your synonyms are determination, perseverance, stubbornness, and obstinacy, and your antonyms are indifference or weakness. Your sample sentence says the talented senior thought her position on the team was secure, but when she saw the freshman's tenacity, she knew she had to try as hard as possible to remain the starting point guard. So she saw that the freshman was tenacious, or she saw the freshman's tenacity. The freshman was working really hard and persevering. Just a reminder of another word this unit. Unyielding is a synonym for tenacious. So you can tell the difference between when you want to use the word unyielding and when you want to use the word tenacity, because unyielding is an adjective, right? So this person climbing the rope over there is unyielding, and she shows tenacity. All right, so you can use unyielding and tenacious in kind of the same way. So she is unyielding, she is tenacious, but she shows tenacity because tenacity is a noun. Tenacious does have a little bit more of a positive sense than unyielding. So if someone's working really hard, you'd be more likely to call them tenacious, whereas when someone's stubborn, you'd be more likely to call them unyielding. So there's a little bit of a different sense, but they both mean that you're like sticking to your goals and sticking to what you want to do. Your next root is super, which means over or above, and we use this root casually in normal conversation a lot. If you say something super awesome, it's not just awesome, it's over and above awesome and even better. Or something super cool, it's over and above regular cool. Your first real word with that root is superfluous, which is an adjective and means being more than is sufficient or excessive. It can also mean unnecessary or needless. So it seems like if these were all one person's shoes, you might say that they have superfluous shoes, right? They probably only need one pair, and so they have superfluous shoes. They have lots and lots and lots of them. Or if I had superfluous pencils, I might have an entire desk covered in pencils, and like there's no way that I would ever need that many. Your synonyms are extra, excess, and surplus, and your antonyms are needed and necessary. Your sample sentence says, Hannah began to find the gifts from her secret admirer to be superfluous. How many bouquets of flowers could she possibly receive in a single week? So 1 bouquet of flowers a week is lovely. Flowers every single day is superfluous. Your next word is surfeit, which is a noun, and it is an excessive or a moderate amount. Overindulgence, especially in eating or drinking, or last, disgust, nausea, etc., caused by such overindulgence. So I have a giant turkey dinner over here because a turkey dinner like this would provide a surfeit of food, right? More food than you could possibly need to eat. Your antonyms are shortage or deficiency. Your helpful hint is helpful. It says, in plain English, a surfeit of anything simply means you have too much of it, like on Thanksgiving. Your sample sentence says, due to a shipping error, the store had a surfeit of loaves of bread and had to sell them at an incredibly reduced price so they wouldn't go bad. So I want to talk for a second about the connection between superfluous and surfeit. You'll notice, importantly, superfluous is an adjective and surfeit is a noun. So if you have superfluous shoes, you have a surfeit of shoes. So I just jotted those examples down there. So if you have superfluous shoes, you could say you have a surfeit of shoes. You have lots more than you could ever wear. If you have superfluous food, you have a surfeit of food. You have way more food than you could possibly eat. Your next root is trans, which means across. 2 really common words with trans are transportation, right? Transportation takes you across different areas to somewhere else. And transgender, which describes someone who has gone across genders, who has become the other gender. Your first word for trans is transcend, which means to rise above or go beyond, overpass, exceed, or second definition, to outdo or exceed in excellence, elevation, extent, degree, etc. Your synonyms are to outdo, outshine, excel, surpass, and your antonyms are fail, lose, fall short of. Your sample sentence says, Natalia's essays were always superior, but her paper on Romeo and Juliet transcended even her teacher's lofty expectations and received an A+. So, I don't know what that word was. So you often think about transcending expectations. So this picture over here too is someone walking across a line of expectations. So if you think that your team is going to score 2 goals in the game and then you score 5 goals in the game, you have transcended your expectations for yourself, or you have transcended the goals that you had and kind of gone beyond it. So it's usually used in that kind of figurative sense of transcending someone else's idea of what you could be, or transcending your own idea of what you could be. Transitory is your next word. It's an adjective, and it means lasting only a short time or brief. Your synonyms are short-lived, temporary, transient, and ephemeral. Your antonyms are long-lasting, endless, permanent, enduring. Your helpful hint says, perhaps you will remember that a person who is in transit is passing between 2 places and is not settling in permanently. Your sample sentence says, after the house fire, the family had to set up their transitory residence in a hotel for 3 weeks. So it was a transitory residence because it didn't last for very long. These are the best picture that I could find of silly bands. I put that here because silly bands were a transitory fad. Fads are often transitory, so that's a really good concept to think of along with that word. So for, I don't know, 2 years, kids were wearing silly bands all the time, but it was only a transitory fad or a transitory trend because then people stopped liking them and didn't wear them anymore. Your last root is pro, which means forward. It often has the sense of forward in terms of being ahead of someone else. So if you think of professional athletes, are the ones who are ahead of all the other athletes. Your first word is profligate, which is an adjective. And your first definition is immoral or corrupt, and your second definition is recklessly extravagant. So being called profligate is not a compliment. Being told that something you're doing is profligate, also not a compliment. Your synonyms are shameless, degenerate, depraved, and wasteful and immoderate. Your antonyms are good, moral, and upright, or thrifty and frugal. Your sample sentence says, some people, upon winning the lottery, become profligate spenders, burning through large chunks of wealth in no time at all. So I like the sample sentence because profligate spending is the way that I hear this word most commonly. So when you see the second definition of recklessly extravagant, that's often talking about spending your money profligately. So if you look at this picture of this woman over here, it looks like she's buying all kinds of things online. So you might say that she is a profligate spender. She's spending her money extravagantly without really good reasons for what she's putting her money towards. Your next word is profound. It's an adjective. It means of deep meaning, going beyond what is superficial and obvious. So I put this cat over here because she looks like she's having some profound thoughts. So I'm just going to add the term profound thoughts is a way that this word is used often, or a profound conversation would be a conversation that is talking about like really deep, powerful topics, right? If I asked you, what do you think the meaning of life is? That's a profound question. Your synonyms are deep or insightful, and your antonyms are shallow or superficial. Your sample sentence says, sometimes it's fun to read a book that doesn't make you think too hard, but it can be equally enjoyable to read something profound that changes the way you see the world. So the profound reading would be getting into those deep, like, what is the meaning of life? Why are we here? What is our purpose, right? Are those kind of profound questions or profound thoughts. All right, that's it for this unit. Thanks for listening.